Amir.
Hello, Mr. Askeri.
Okay, according to our meeting, introduction for I have an introduction for cybersecurity meeting. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's cybersecurity meeting. As we gather here, it's imperative that we remain vigilant in protecting our organization's digital assets from ever-evolving threats. Today, we will delve into an essential aspect of cybersecurity: DNS, domain name system. We'll explore what DNS is, its vulnerabilities to attacks, and the best strategies to mitigate these risks. By understanding and safeguarding DNS, we can fortify our organization's online presence and ensure the integrity of our data. So, without further delay, let's delve into the world of DNS and its associated security challenges. Okay, Amir, go ahead with what is DNS, and I'm waiting for your introduction about our meeting. According, you see, we talk about DNS, DNS attacks, and DNS mitigation. Okay, Amir, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Askeri, and thanks for your time. As you said, I prepared an article about DNS, DNS attacks, and DNS mitigation that I go to present it to you today.
Okay, Amir, thank you. You can call me just Omid. It's enough. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
DNS is one of the protocols of application layer in the OSI model that acts as the backbone of the web today. DNS works on port 53. The DNS port for both TCP and UDP is on port 53 because it works depending on the need on both TCP and UDP. For example, when it wants to transfer zone, it uses TCP port 53, and when it wants to get answers to queries, it uses UDP port 53. Because we have 65,535 TCP ports and 65,535 UDP ports. In the following, we will get to know the zone transfer and query completely. But now it's better to talk a little about the difference between TCP and UDP because we need a minimum knowledge of it to better understand the issues in the DNS attack section. But if we want to study it deeply, it needs a separate and dedicated meeting, maybe another day. The difference between TCP and UDP. TCP. TCP stands for Transfer Control Protocol, which works in layer 4 of the OSI model, which we called it transport layer. And if we use this protocol, we are sure that our packets are guaranteed and reach their destination in the same order we want, and we don't lose our packets in the way. To guarantee its packet, TCP uses a protocol called three-way handshake. And if we want to know how does three-way handshake work, at first a SYN packet is sent from the source computer to the destination computer. SYN stands for synchronization, and it means that the first computer says to the second computer, "Hello, can you hear me?" Then the destination computer sends a SYN-ACK packet to the source computer. And it means that the second computer says to the first computer, "Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me too?" After that, the source computer sends an ACK packet to the destination computer. And ACK stands for acknowledge. And it means that the first computer says to the second computer, "Yes, I can hear you too. And now that we hear each other, I want to hold a session with you." And finally, the desired port is opened and the session is established. TCP is a connection-oriented protocol, which means it creates a session between two computers before establishing a connection. And after that, the session is established. it sends the packet to the destination. UDP. UDP or User Datagram Protocol that only sends the packet to the destination and doesn't check whether the packets reach the destination or not. UDP works as a connectionless oriented protocol. That means it doesn't create a trustable path or session for its packets. The main job of DNS is to convert name to IP and vice versa, just like a phone book. The reason for creating of DNS is that it's much easier to remember the name than remember the IP. And computer just understand IP or numbers. When we search the name of a website, a message from our computer goes to the DNS server, and the DNS server goes and find the IP of that website and return it to our computer. And then the computer that only understands the numbers connect to the desired website. To get the IP of a website like Google, we can write ping www.google.com in the CMD, and it will show us the IP of Google. We can do this for each website that we want. To get the IP of a website like google.com, at first, we should press the Win and R button on our keyboard to open the Run menu. Then type CMD and go to the CMD environment. Then type ping www.google.com and it will show you the IP of Google. If the DNS was set to automatically in our network interface card or NIC, when we search for a website, our computer connected to the ISP's DNS server. ISP means Internet Service Provider, that we get Internet and IP public to connect to the Internet from them. We can change the DNS setting on our computer and tell it when I look up a domain name or website, go and connect to the specific DNS server that I said, then return the answer to me. For doing this, we should type ncpa.cpl in the Run menu. Then select the desired NIC or turn on NIC as you can see in the picture. After that, right-click on it and click Properties. Then in the open window, you should click on Internet Protocol version 4 and click Properties. Last, you should click on Use the following DNS server addresses and enter the desired DNS server addresses. For example, one of the most famous DNS server in the world is for Google, whose IP is 8.8.8.8 or 8.8.4.4. When we search for the domain name or a website, our computer at first looks for that domain name in its cache. Because if it has been already connected to the website before, the IP of website is stored in the cache and there is no need to find the IP again. The cache is a temporary memory that when the DNS server converts the name to the IP, the answers is stored in the cache for a while. Because as we will see below, the DNS process is a time-consuming process and it may go and find the answer from DNS servers that are far away from each other. We have cache in both servers and clients. Cache is a temporary memory. That means the records stay in that for a certain time, and then they are deleted. This time is called TTL or time to live. To visit the cache, we can type ipconfig slash DNS in the CMD, and for deleting cache, we can type ipconfig slash flush DNS in CMD. We delete the cache for two main reasons. Number one, when the IP of that domain name or website was changed and we want to connect to it, if the old IP is still stored in our computer's cache, we can't connect to the website. So we should delete the cache, then the DNS try to find a new IP address again. Number two, when our computer is under a cache poisoning attack, that we will speak about that a little later. If the computer can't find the answer in the cache, it goes to the host file and check it too. The host file is considered the grandfather of DNS. If the answer wasn't in the host file too, now our computer asks its question from DNS servers. And the first DNS server is connected to is called DNS resolver. The packet that's sent to the DNS server is called query. When the query arrives to the DNS resolver, the first thing that the DNS resolver do is to checking its zone to see if the answer exists in them or not. But what is zone? We said that DNS works like a phone book. In the phone book, we put the names that start with same letter near each other to find them easily. In the zone structure, we say that, for example, all the domains shared up to google.com should be placed in the google.com zone. For example, mail.google.com or maps.google.com or any subdomain like that. We have three zone models: primary zone, secondary zone, and STUB zone. Primary zone at first. All the records that we enter manually are located in the primary zone. Secondary zone, which is a backup version of the primary zone, and it's read-only version. That means we can't change it. For example, add some record or remove. We can't add some records or remove some records. STUB zone, which is including the next name servers that DNS should connect to them to get the answer, or we write the CNAME records in STUB zone 2. We talk about record, name server, and CNAME. But now it's time to see what these words are and what are they doing. At first, records. When the server manager or admin of DNS server has manually entered the domain names and their corresponding IP in his DNS server, we call them records. And we have A record, quad A records, CNAME record, and NS record. A record is an IP version 4 along with its corresponding domain name, and we call it A record, quad A record. And IP version 6 along with its corresponding domain name is called an quad A record. CNAME record or alias record. It's for when we want to register 2 or 3 domain names for a website with same IP address. NS record. NS record or name server record. If the DNS server doesn't have the answer of queries, it communicates with other DNS server to find the answer from them, and we call them name server. And if we have written them manually, we call them NS record. In the next step, if the DNS resolver doesn't find the answer of queries, it checks its cache. If the answer wasn't in the cache too, the DNS server goes to conditional forwarding and check it. When do we use conditional forwarding for DNS servers? It's for the time when, for example, two companies cooperate and must be connected to each other's systems, and each company has its own internal DNS server. Here, the companies create a record in their DNS server and say, if someone finds out about the domains of our partner company, direct it to their DNS server. If there wasn't set conditional forwarding, or there wasn't answer of our query in that, DNS resolver check for forwarding. DNS forwarding is a process where another designated server handles non-resolvable addresses. Difference between forwarding and conditional forwarding is that in the conditional forwarding, if the query search for IP of special domain name, the query send to DNS that acts in the role of conditional forwarding. But in the forwarding, any queries that internal DNS doesn't have their answer, is directed toward a DNS server that acts as a forward. We use forwarding for increase the security of our network, and we put the forwarding DNS server in the DMZ and between two firewalls. If no DNS server is designated as the forwarder to which external queries are routed, then all DNS servers within the network will handle external requests, which means that they will query external resolvers. This is undesirable for two main reasons. Number one, internal DNS information can be exposed on the open internet. It's far better to have a strict separation between internal and external DNS. Exposing internal domains on the open internet creates a potential security and privacy vulnerability. Number two, without forwarding, all DNS servers will query external DNS resolvers if they don't have the required addresses cached. This can result in excessive network traffic. By designating a DNS server as a forwarder, that server is responsible for all external DNS resolution and can build up a cache of external addresses, reducing the need to query recursive resolvers and cutting down on traffic. For smaller companies with limited available bandwidth, DNS forwarding can increase the efficiency of the network by both reducing bandwidth usage and improving the speed at which DNS requests are fulfilled. But what's the meaning of DMZ network? DMZ means demilitarized zone. A DMZ exposes an organization's external services to a large untrusted network such as the internet. A DMZ is a type of network design that sits between our private network and the outside network, like internet. This network doesn't allow users outside the organization to communicate with the organization's internal servers directly, thus protecting the organization's information. DMZ doesn't have the security of our internal network, but it also doesn't have the generality and access of the internet. DMZ usually sits between two firewalls. DMZ is used to prevent network scanning for attacks and prevent IP spoofing attacks. Organizations usually put their DNS server, FTP server, web server, or mail server in the DMZ. If forwarding can't answer our query, the DNS server sends a query to the root server or hint server. We have 13 root servers in the world. DNS resolver, DNS resolver asks from root server that if you know the IP of www.google.com, for example, in number two, and in number three, root server say, I don't know the IP of www.google.com, but I know a server that it know all subdomains of .com. We call that server TLD or top level domain name servers. In the next step and in number four, the DNS resolver goes to TLD and again asks it if you know the IP of www.google.com. And in number five, TLD say, I don't know the IP of www.google.com, but I know a server that it's know all subdomain of .com, google.com. We call that server authoritative name server or SLD name server. In next step, DNS resolver in number six goes to authoritative name server and asks it if you know the IP of the www.google.com, and authoritative name server number seven says, yes, I know the IP of the www.google.com and return the correct answer to DNS resolver. They work like a tree. You may have been asked what an authoritative name server is. All DNS servers fall into one of four categories: recursive resolvers, root name servers, TLD name servers, and authoritative name servers. When we write a domain name in your browser, a DNS query is sent to your Internet Service Provider, or ISP. The ISP has a recursive server which might have the needed information cached in its memory. But if the data is outdated, this recursive server needs to find the IP elsewhere. It will try to find it in other recursive servers. But if it can't, it needs to get the IP address from an authoritative DNS server. Because the authoritative DNS server is the final holder of the IP of the domain name you are looking for. Such a server is the name server which has original zone records. It has been configured from the original source and it returns answer to queries that have been predetermined by the administrator. Now we want to talk about DNS attacks and DNS mitigation together. In DNS attacks, a cybercriminal either tries to compromise the server's resources, or use its inherent feature to carry out a broader attack. Attacks are made on both recursive servers and authoritative servers. Attacks on DNS often have two modes. At first, there are attacks that disable the server or help the server to disable the victim, such as DOS, DDoS, or DNS reflection amplification. And number two, attacks that divert the user in such a way that the user type and search a website, but the DNS server gives the IP address of another website with specific goals, which are usually used for phishing attacks. General works to reduce attacks. We should use the last version of DNS software because in the last version of DNS software, we can reduce its vulnerabilities. So we should regularly update it. Always monitor network traffic or use multi-factor authentication to make change to the DNS infrastructure or use of DNSSEC or domain name system security extension which extends authentication in DNS by using digital signature based on public key. Use parent for our DNS server. Now we want to talk about DNS flood attacks. DNS flood attack, it's an attack whose purpose is to overcome the DNS server itself and disable it. In fact, the attacker targets one or more DNS servers related to a real zone. By doing this, the websites will also be compromised because the DNS server will no longer work to direct people to them. A successful attack on the DNS infrastructure makes the internet unusable for most people. Detection of DNS flood attacks are difficult from normal heavy traffic because in these attacks there is often a lot of traffic coming from multiple and unique locations that are looking for real domain records and mimicking authorized traffic. DNS flood attacks are a relatively new type of attack that has increased with the rise of high bandwidth IoT botnets. IoT means Internet of Things. The purpose of these attacks is to disable the DNS server by sending requests that exceed the capacity, and it will be default to respond to normal requests. DDoS attacks not only overwhelm and crash servers with fake traffic, but also cause users who cannot connect to the website constantly refresh their browsers and resulting in more requests and the attack gets worse. For mitigation of DNS flood, because the attacker used a large number of IP addresses, he can bypass most of the anomaly detection algorithms. But still, there are some ways. For example, we should use DDoS mitigation services. We can get help from reliable companies that can help block some unwanted traffic with fully managed service. Or we can use firewall, IPS, and IDS. IPS means intrusion prevention system that is placed next to the firewall, and IDS is intrusion detection system, which is placed next to the core switch. Use a dedicated DNS server. Due to cost limitation, small organizations usually use their DNS server alongside their other application servers, which increase DNS flood attacks. It's always recommended to run your DNS server on a dedicated server. NX domain attack or non-existent domain attack. An NX domain attack is a special type of DNS flooding in which an attacker sends a large number of invalid requests to a specific DNS server. NX domain attack is a type of DDoS when the DNS server is flooding with requests for non-existent domains. The server cache fill up and stop legitimate DNS requests. Now imagine an attacker controlling a botnet that contains thousands of users. Each of them sends a request for a domain that does not exist. This can clog up the DNS server cache very quickly and denying service to users trying to visit a legitimate site. Recently, some internet service provider or ISPs have started exploiting this situation maliciously. Instead of returning an error message, they redirect these requests to servers with embedded ads, thus capitalizing on invalid requests. The main goal of these attacks is to make the attack DNS server spend its software and hardware resources on invalid requests, which causes the services to crash because the cache is completely filled with NX crash results. For mitigation of NX attack, we can do like DNS flood attack, plus reduce the waiting time for recursive. Next attack is phantom domain attack. A phantom domain attack happens when the attacker sets up phantom domains that do not respond to DNS queries. Under normal circumstance, the DNS recursive server contacts authoritative servers and resolve recursive queries. When phantom domain attacks happen, the recursive server continues to query non-responsive servers, which cause the recursive server to spend valuable resources waiting for response. When resources are fully consumed, the DNS recursive server may drop legitimate queries, causing serious performance issues. And for mitigation of these types of attack, we should increase the number of recursive clients. Recursive client rate limiting provides new tuning control intended to optimize recursive server behavior in a favor of good client queries, whilst at the same time limiting the impact of bad client queries on local recursive server resources use. Meaning of bad client queries is queries which cannot be resolved or which take too long to resolve. We should limit recursive queries per server and limit recursive queries per zone, and enable hold down for non-responsive server and limit recursive queries per zone. Next attack is TCP SIM flood. In this type of attack, the attacker uses the three-way handshake protocol and sends so many SIM packets that all open ports are filled, and the computer can no longer communicate with a real source. The difference between these attacks and other attacks is that these attacks does not bring down the server by filling the memory, but sends so many SIM packets that it cannot allocate a port for another connection. For mitigation of these types of attack, we should support of both inline and out-of-band deployments to ensure there is no one single point of failure on the network. That means we should bring a partner for our DNS server. Broad network visibility with the ability to see and analyze traffic from different parts of network. In the next, we want to talk about DNS reflection amplification, and it's my favorite attack. An attacker tells a DNS server to send me all the records you have, such as A record, quad A record, CNAME record, or anything else. But the source IP is not his own IP. It's an IP of a victim system. And then DNS server sends all the data and traffic to the victim system. Note that the attacker doesn't do this with just one DNS server, and the whole traffic is sent to that victim from several DNS servers. For mitigation of these types of attack, admin of DNS should also stop the packets that seem to be from inside the network, but their source IP is outside the network. And DNS resolver should only respond to packets that have a trusted source IP. To prevent this attack as a client, we can put a firewall in front of our computer. Next is DNS tunneling. DNS packets are easily allowed to pass through the firewall, and an attacker can infect the system inside the network with a phishing attack and infiltrate the domain and make the information of the organization go out of the organization in the majority of the query. They can even inject a malware into the company's firewall and infect it. An attacker can exfiltrate sensitive data with what appears to be just innocuous lookup. For mitigation of these types of attack, we should use tools that use more specific techniques for data extraction should be used, or using zero trust principle that more seriously checks every packet. And requests with strange name should be blocked quickly. DNS hijacking. It's mostly used for farming and phishing attack because it's such that if the user enters the domain name completely correctly, it will take her to a fake site. Many internet service providers also use DNS hijacking to capture users' DNS requests. Also, in some countries, they use DNS hijacking for censorship and redirect users to authorized government sites. Types of DNS hijacking. We have local DNS hijacking, router DNS hijacking, man in the middle hijacking, and rough DNS. About local DNS hijacking, we can say in this attack, the attacker at first creates a DNS server and creates fake records for famous domain names with the IP address of her malicious site. And then, by installing a Trojan, he infects the victim system and enter his own malicious DNS instead of valid DNS in the network card setting. When the victim user searches for a site in her browser, instead of going to a valid DNS server, her request goes to the attacker's DNS server and it returns its IP of a malicious website. Router DNS hijacking. Many routers have weak firmware or use the default passwords they were shipped with. An attacker can take advantage of this to an attacker can take advantage of this to hack a router and change its DNS setting, which will affect everyone that uses that router. In this attack, the attacker makes the packet to be directed to her own DNS server, which has malicious records. Man in the middle hijacking. In the middle of the packets arrival from the DNS server to the victim system, the attacker changed the IP address of the target site and puts her own IP address of the malicious site. Off DNS server. Hackers can alter DNS records on a DNS server and enabling them to reroute DNS requests to a malicious website. If the site looks legitimate, the user may not even know they are in the wrong place. DNS spoofing and DNS cache poisoning. DNS cache poisoning is the act of entering false information into a DNS cache so that DNS queries return an incorrect response and users are directed to the wrong website. DNS cache poisoning is also known as DNS spoofing. IP addresses are the phone number of the internet, as we said, enabling web traffic to arrive in the right places. DNS resolver caches are like a directory that lists these phone numbers, and when they store faulty information, traffic goes to the wrong place until the cached information is corrected. For mitigation of DNS hijacking, DNS or DNS cache poisoning, if you own a website or domain, use a DNS server that transfers encrypted communications, or use DNSSEC or DNS encryption tools. And if you are a client, constantly scan your system to find malware, or change the router's default password, or at the last, you can use VPN. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your time, Mr. Omid.
Okay, Amir, I'm satisfied with your explanation. Well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, as you know, we should think, you should think like a hacker, but
Yes.
hack is illegal. We we will try to upgrade our knowledge, and I will try to develop, to help to you to develop yourself to better version of yourself.
Yes.
Okay. So
Okay.
you will try to know hacking methods and knowledge to mitigate hackers, and we are anti-hacker. Okay. Sometimes it's called they call some security in cybersecurity. They call that we are white hat hacker. To sum up or conclusion, I have chosen 10 questions that I will ask. Please answer them. Write down any answers you don't know and send them to me in the future. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now rest for 2 minutes, and after that I will see you. Okay? Can you
I
hear me?
should,
Can you hear me?
excuse me, I should write 10 questions.
I have chosen 10 questions for you for conclusion of your of our session. Okay? I
Okay,
will
okay.
ask 10 questions from you. Please answer them. Write down
Okay,
any answer you don't know and send them to me in the future. Okay?
okay, it's
It
okay.
does
I'm
not
ready.
matter if you didn't know all of the answer. You can send me after this session. If you didn't, for example, the question number three or question number four, it does not matter. But you can send me the answer of the question after our session.
Okay, I
Okay?
prepared myself to note all of your
Okay, okay,
questions and
nice, nice.
you can
Now,
answer them.
now rest for 2 minutes. I will see you again.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, I mean, according to the previous conversation and session, certainly here's is some type of question to initiate discussions on DNS and its security implications. Number one, how does DNS play a critical role in the functioning of the internet, and why is it an attractive target for attackers? You can answer or skip the question. Uh, which one you want to select, you can select it.
Okay,
I ask
we
again,
can.
how does DNS play a critical role in the functioning of the internet? And why is it an attractive target for attackers?
Okay, if you're agree, we skip from this question and I note it to research about it deeply and say it to you later.
Okay, another way I can't give the answer to you. DNS plays a critical role in the internet functioning by translating human readable domain DNS, I mean, into IP address. It is an attractive target for attackers because compromising, sorry, DNS can allow them to redirect users to the malicious websites,
Yes.
insert sensitive information, or disrupt services, potentially leading to financial gain or etc. For example, reputational damage. Did you understand?
Yes, of course.
Okay. The question number two. What are the potential consequences of a successful DNS attack on our organization's infrastructure and data? What do
If
you think about this question?
Yes, I think if a successful attack goes to our organization's DNS, nobody can't connect with each other's system, you know, and it's bad too in the internet.
You mean DNS? You mean sorry, you mean that DDoS attack? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm
The
about
okay,
attacks that
okay,
overwhelm our
okay.
DNS servers.
The best answer is that the consequences of a successful DNS attack can be severe. For instance, DNS spoofing or cache poisoning can lead to a user being directed to fake websites where their sensitive information, such as a login, credential, or financial details, can be stolen, the credential information or financial details. Okay, the DNS based distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks can overload DNS servers, causing service disruption and rendering websites or online services inaccessible. That you said about that. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Okay, number three. Could you provide example of real-world DNS attacks that that have caused significant damage or disruption to organization?
I should name a real world attack.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, I'm sorry, I have no information and I should search about that.
Mhm. What you think about that? Can you give me an example or not?
No, I should search about that and
Kaminsky.
say answer you later.
Okay. One, I introduced something about this question. One notable example is the Kaminsky DNS vulnerability discovered in 2008, 2008. You
Yes.
can search in Google, okay?
Okay,
It
of
allowed
course.
attackers to poison the DNS cache of vulnerability servers or vulnerable servers. This is better to say. Redirecting
Yes.
users to malicious website. This vulnerability affect numerous organizations and highlighted the widespread impact of DNS attacks. That's it. Okay, number
Okay.
4. What are the key differences between DNS spoofing and DNS cache poisoning, and how can we defend against these attacks?
Between DNS spoofing and DNS cache hijacking.
No, no, no. Between DNS spoofing and
Okay.
DNS cache poisoning.
Uh, I think in the DNS spoofing, that means we put a fake DNS in the victim system. But in the DNS cache poisoning, that means we stolen DNS cache of a victim system, and we should change it and put our malicious or attackers. Sorry, not our. We are a white hacker. Had
Okay,
hacker.
okay, listen to me. For better
Okay.
understanding, DNS
Yes.
spoofing involves attackers firing DNS responses, while DNS cache is, poisoning aims to inject false false records in DNS caches. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
defending against these attacks requires measures such as implementing DNS security, which use digital signatures to verify the authenticity and integrity of DNS responses. Please note that authenticity and integrity in totally different.
Okay.
You should search about what is authenticity and what is integrity. In we have CIA, confidentiality,
Yes.
integrity, availability.
Yes.
Authentication and authenticity is a process, but you should know what is that. Please note this important point.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Uh, Question 5. How
Okay.
does DNSSEC or DNS security enhance the security of the DNS infrastructure? What are the challenges and consideration in implementing DNS security sec?
Okay. I should note it and go and research
Okay, do
about
you
it
do you, do you know
later.
what is DNS sec?
The DNSSEC is an extension that prevents
No, no, no,
security
no,
of
no, no,
our
no, no,
DNS.
no. I don't need explanation. What is the DNS sec?
Yes, I know about that, but now I forgot the
Okay,
full
you
name.
didn't know at this moment. Domain name system security extensions.
Yes,
Do you
yes.
know what is how it work or not?
Not sure. I'm not
Okay,
sure.
okay, we are back to the answer of this question, but you should
Yes.
search about this question. DNS
Okay.
security or domain name system security extensions enhances DNS security by digitally signing DNS records. providing a mechanism to verify to authenticity and integrity of DNS data. However, implementing DNS security, DNSSEC, can be challenging due to complexities in key management.
Okay.
That's it. You should know and search about that.
Yes, of course.
Okay, number 6.
I noted to
Okay,
research
okay,
about it.
okay. What are the potential risks associated with misconfigured DNS servers? And how can we ensure our DNS infrastructure is properly configured? Amir, misconfigured is very dangerous in implementation of anything such as a DNS server or etc. Do you understand the question, or you want to repeat it again?
If you repeat it, I will thank.
Okay, not a problem. Number 6. Um, yes, it's number 6. Yes.
Yes, yes.
What are the potential risks associated with misconfigured DNS servers, and how can we ensure our DNS infrastructure is properly configured?
And I think the answer of this question is that we should bring the parents to reduce one point of failures risks.
Can you explain more?
Uh, if we have one DNS server, if it's down,
inadvertently,
our organizations can't
inadvertently,
use DNS server. But if we have a parent, if
inadvertently,
first, and we should synchronization them with each other. And if the first DNS server is down, the second DNS server can do its responsibility. And if you say when we want to write a DNS server in an NIC, as we said in my article, we should put two DNS server. For example, for Google, we have 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4 because they are parents with each other. And it's for a time if first DNS server is down, the second DNS server do its responsibility.
Misconfigured DNS servers can pose significant risks. They can inadvertently allow unauthorized zone transfers, expose sensitive information, or become un, un, mm, unwitting participate in DDoS amplification attacks. Probably configured DNS servers include secure zone transfers, implementing access control, and following best practices for firewall and network configuration. You know, best practices is very important in cybersecurity for mitigation attacks. Do you know about best practices or no? You
This
heard about
practice
that?
means yes,
Yes.
means we should do best of doing that we can do.
Mm, I can understand,
Not
sorry.
word of best practice or best practice for this situation.
Mm, what did you
I
mean?
think you means I say the meaning of best practice, or we should say best practice
What
with
is
this
best practice?
question. And
What is the
but
best practices?
it's the
Cybersecurity.
meaning of best practice.
Yes, exactly. So,
I lost your voice. I can't hear you. So,
Sorry, what is the best practices in cybersecurity?
okay. If
What is
you
the
means
meaning
the
of?
best practice in cybersecurity, I should. What's the meaning of? That means we doing and preparing a best situation and to reduce all threats of outside and reduce all vulnerability that is inside of our network.
Can you give me best practices?
And I should research about it and I
Okay,
can
for
say about
example,
it in a later.
for example, CISA provides information on cybersecurity best practices to help individuals and organizations implement preventive measure and manage cybersecurity risk or threat.
Okay,
Okay,
I note that.
okay. What is our next question? Six or seven? I forget. Let me check.
It's eight.
Okay, seven. No, seven.
It's number eight.
No, seven.
Seven
DNS
or eight.
tunneling. DNS number seven. DNS tunneling.
Okay.
The next question is seven. Yes, we answer about a misconfiguration DNS.
Okay.
Okay, number seven. DNS tunneling involves encapsulation, encapsulating unauthorized data within DNS queries or responses, allowing
Yes.
attackers to bypass network security control. Okay,
Okay.
the question is, how can DNS tunneling be used by attackers to bypass network security control? And what measures can we take to detect and prevent such attacks? I give you the answer point to you. Can you answer that?
Sir, because the packets that is go out from firewall mimicking the good queries, the firewall can't uh, uh, find them and block them. You know, and it's the reason that
No,
tunneling,
no, no, no.
DNS
It's not
tunneling.
true. Amir, it's not true. Sorry, I stop you. DNS
Okay.
tunneling involves, I give you this hint uh, before I ask a question. Okay? DNS tunneling, DNS tunneling involves encapsulating unauthorized data within DNS queries or responses, allowing attackers to bypass network security controls. To detect and prevent DNS tunneling, organizations can deploy a specialized network intrusion detection system (IDS) or
Yes.
intrusion prevention system (IPS) that monitor DNS traffic for anomalies or the use of non-standard DNS queries types. So by monitoring anomalies, you can detect uh, behavior and prevent the attack. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, number eight. What
Okay.
role does DNS filtering play in protecting our organization from malicious website and potential phishing attempts? Okay,
Um,
sorry.
it will
Phishing attempts. What role does DNS filtering play in protecting our organization for malicious websites and potential phishing attempts?
I think we should use a zero trust filtering for our DNS servers.
Mm, how can you use the zero trust?
That means uh, we should put uh,
Okay, Amir, you should search more, not a problem,
yes,
because
yes.
this is diverse question and very deep. DNS filtering is an effective measure to protect against accessing malicious or suspicious websites. By implementing DNS filtering solutions, organizations can block access to non-malicious domains or categorize a website associated with malware, phishing, or the other threats. DNS filtering can be achieved through commercial solutions or open source tools like DNS sinkholing. Okay,
Okay,
uh,
okay. I should
use
research
this
about
word.
it.
Use this word DNS sinkholing. You can get more. Okay, number
Okay.
9. How can we ensure the timely patching and updating of our DNS servers to address vulnerabilities and protect against non-exploits? How can we ensure the timely patching and updating of our DNS servers to address vulnerabilities and protect against non exploits?
I think we should check about vulnerability and search about them in sites that they say which vulnerability, for example, what CVE now is a new, and we should update it if I'm not wrong.
Mm,
But now I forgot the name of the website that say about
no,
vulnerabilities,
just one
about
website is not
vulnerability news.
not okay. Timely patching and updating of DNS servers are crucial to address vulnerabilities and impact against non-exploits. Organizations should establish a patch management process. Okay,
Okay,
organizations should establish a patch management process. Please note that.
okay. Yes, of course. Okay, I note this
Okay,
to
do you
research.
not do you know about patch management process or management process?
That means
regularly.
companies that uh, develop the DNS software uh,
No, 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 Amir,
regularly.
sorry, no. Please write in your note what is patch
Uh,
management process. Management process is very important in all of job. In
okay.
cybersecurity, management process is very important.
Mhm.
Regularly monitor vendor advisories and security bulletins and apply patches uh, promptly to mitigate the risk of attacks targeting non-vulnerabilities. Okay?
Okay.
Number 10. In addition to technical safeguards, how can we promote a culture of cybersecurity awareness among employees to reduce the risk of falling victim to DNS related attacks? In addition to technical safeguards, how can we promote a culture of cybersecurity awareness among employees to reduce the risk of falling victim to DNS related attacks?
Okay, I should note these questions too and
Okay,
research about its answer.
okay, okay, it's good. Sorry. Promoting a culture of cybersecurity awareness among employees is vital to reduce the risk of falling victim to DNS related attacks. This can be achieved through regular training programs that educate employees about the importance of verifying website authenticity, identifying phishing attempts, and practicing good cybersecurity hygiene, such as a strong password and avoiding suspicious links or attachments. For example, in the company, they send too many invoice and purchase order or something like that. The hackers use man in the middle and send a random answer to the too many emails to hijack username and password. For example, your quota is over, or you should change your password. If you didn't do that, your email has been locked, or etc. You got? It's a sample of phishing attack. So,
Got it.
uh, so it is very important to training programs that educate employees about the importance of verifying website authenticity, identifying phishing attempts, and practicing good cybersecurity hygiene using a strong password. How,
Yeah.
what is, which is your password strong or not? What is strong passwords? It's important.
Yes,
You should,
all of my passwords are
no,
strong.
I didn't ask from you. You should
Ah, okay,
teach
so
the employee of the organization, your company, or something like that. You should use the strong password. They should
okay.
know about the importance of verifying website authenticity, identifying phishing attempts, because they should know what is the phishing. For example, in Instagram, they send a link, then when the client click on the link, the Instagram page has been appear, then they enter the user and password on Instagram to log in. So the hackers uh, gain access to the credential of information, and so they can log in it and change the password, and that's it. Please
Note
note
these
that
two.
these answers provide a starting point of discussing DNS and its security um, implementation. Okay, please feel free to expand upon these points and the answer to your specific context. And that's it, Ami.
Okay, thank. Of
Okay,
course.
thank you for your for you from this for you to open this session, and we can continue for our next session.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Omid, and thanks for your time.
Okay, you're welcome.